Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. For those of you who don't know me, I am SBell, and I'm the face behind SBell Wellness. And tonight, I am going to share all about some tips and tricks for gut health. Gut health, you guys, is so incredibly important for so much of our wellness across all systems of our body, not just our digestive system. And so I think it's really important for us to kind of get to the root of that. And so we'll dig in a little bit in some different ways, different things to be thinking about for your own self. I always want to encourage everyone, we are all unique. So that the way that we eat, what our body needs is all unique, but there are some tips and tricks that maybe we can kind of think about for all of us. So that's what we'll kind of talk about tonight. But first, as I talk about it, I want to talk about toxins, because toxins, you guys, really do have an impact on our gut health. Oftentimes we hear about it for hormone health, which also is very linked to our gut. We think about it for allergies, those kind of things, but maybe we don't necessarily link them in with gut health. And I think it's important to talk about that because toxins do have an impact over our body over a span of time. And so, you might have been born with hardly any toxins in your body, but studies are now showing that babies actually are born with almost 300 chemicals in their body from the get-go, passed on from the mom to the baby. And so just as we think about that, it's not this guilt thing or, mom did something wrong or anything like that. It's just totally what's happening in our world. And so it's just so incredible to pass on that message to make sure that we are doing everything that we can control. So for some of those things that we can't, we might not have that impact. And so I think that's a lot of reasons why we do see gut health issues from the get-go, even in kiddos. Working as an occupational therapist, I see lots of things going on with gut health that impacts behavior and all of those things. And when they go unaddressed for periods of time, then we move into adulthood with these things. So the toxins, you guys, they come from chemicals in our food, in our water, in our air, our cleaning products, our personal care products, our medications. It's really kind of everywhere. And if you think of your body like a bucket, that over time it's just filling up, and it starts to overflow. And that overflow is really illness. And so let's think about some things that we can do about that. So when we're talking toxins, we want to talk about detoxification. And of course, we do have our detoxification organs that really support us with that. Our kidneys, our liver, our stomach, they really do help to filter that out. But again, over time, they're being taxed and starting to have issues. So the good news is that studies are showing that if we focus on lowering that toxic load, love up on those organs, we can start to decrease these health conditions that can come from it. So we can talk a little bit about that. So with doTERRA, one of the products that I really love for detoxification is the Zendocrine blend. So Zendocrine is an oil blend. You can put that in your bath. That's the way I love to use it. I love to put it in a detox bath and put it with some salts. Really just helps to pull out those toxins from the body. And then it also comes in a blend in a little soft gel capsule that you can take. And so in here, we've got tangerine and rosemary, geranium, juniper berry, and cilantro. These oils really love up on our detox organs. So taking one of these soft gels can be super helpful. You can take them on a regular basis. I tend to take them when I know my body pretty well. And so I kind of know when some sluggish things are happening or when I might have been exposed to more. Working in a place that uses chemicals to clean with, I have been using it more. So just something that I kind of keep in mind for that. But that's kind of the detox piece of it. There's like heavy metal testing that you can do, those kind of things. I always recommend if you feel like you've been exposed to a lot, tapping into a functional medicine doctor can help you kind of look through kind of how to detox from that. But if we kind of dig in on the gut and think about how all of these things are kind of wreaking havoc, we might start to talk about nutrition a little bit more. And a big piece of that is how much food has changed just over the past 50 years, food has changed drastically, you know, from us and the food choices that we make because we're looking for this, you know, quick, easy, a lot of times it's prepackaged or processed for convenience. And a lot of time these foods are really packed with genetically modified organisms or GMOs, if you're familiar with that term. These were actually only introduced in the 90s. And the true intent of them, you guys, was to maximize profit. I know sometimes that's incredibly hard to listen to that statement, right? Like we want to trust that the food that's being sold to us is safe. But the GMOs, it really was to maximize profit in the way that things were being farmed. And these are wreaking havoc on our body. And so making sure that we are looking for foods, if we are going for those packaged foods, making sure that we're looking for ones that are not genetically modified is incredibly important for our body. And not just for our digestive health, because 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our gut. 90% of our serotonin, our happy chemical, actually originates in our gut. That's huge. That gut-brain connection is so incredibly huge for our emotional health. And so we want to really think about that some more. So let's talk about eating real food. So I talked about GMOs and wanting to kind of get away from that. Eating real food means that we're avoiding food products, right? Yes, people ask me all the time, like, is organic really better? It is, you guys, it is. Because it's limiting the pesticides that we're being exposed to. It's limiting the synthetic hormones that the animals may be exposed to. It's helping us to avoid those factory farmed animals, which is not only just about the hormones that they might be giving, the antibiotics that they're given, but also there's a lot of studies that are really starting to see the impact of how the animals are treated, and then we consume them and we carry those same feelings that they carried in what they were kind of dealing with in their life. So really looking for those grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised animals when we're going for animal products is important. And yes, they can be more expensive. And so I think it's hard for us to kind of manage that sometimes. And, you know, the more we can put, you know, plant-based foods and healthy fats into our diet and use the protein as maybe just a couple of our meals during the week, that's going to help us be able to save on that cost that we're doing. And then the big one, you guys, limiting sugar. This is not about willpower, you guys. We are biologically addicted to sugar. So I hope that's freeing for you to know that. It's not about you deciding and being able to make that change. It really is about us crowding it out with other things. But a powerful statement that I do want to make that I think is very helpful for people when you're thinking about this is that the average person consumes 34 teaspoons of sugar a day. And the recommendation is 26 grams, which is about 6 teaspoons a day. So when we think about that, you guys, like the average person is consuming almost 6 times the amount that the body really can handle. Oh. So such a huge statement to just help us as we're starting to think about the why behind it, right? Because the sugar is so good and our brain is forever going to tell us we need it, we want it, we've got to have it. But the more that we can start to kind of coach ourselves through that and start to notice the impact that the sugar has. So as you start to crowd it out with, you know, using sweet fruits, using sweet vegetables, the more that we can crowd it out and let our body notice that it can still have some of those things that it enjoys, then we'll start to see a shift. You'll start to notice things in your body, right? It's not just about digestion. I mean, that's the number one thing we're going to notice. We're going to notice, you know, gas and bloating and nausea, upset stomach, you know, bowel movement issues, all of that, like those things we notice and we're like, oh, I ate something or something's not right. But you guys, you're going to notice things like less head tension, more energy, less fatigue. Joint and muscle pain is a huge one that's impacted by the inflammation that sugar has on our body. Skin issues, dry skin, dry brittle hair, nails, all of these things really are impacted over time by the inflammation that is caused by the sugar in our body. So we want to just start to limit that and crowd it out. I talk a lot about that in my health coaching programs and, get into more detail about what are some ways that we can do that, not feel deprived. Because if we feel deprived, you guys are going right back to it. So it really is about trying to crowd it out and get into this routine that feels good. And when you get on the other side and you can feel good, it's a lot easier to stay there and to be able to work through that and have the sugars some of the time, right? That's the thing. Like, I don't feel restricted by that. I have certain things that I still enjoy in my life, but so much power behind feeling better from that. Another kind of mind shift that we can take is something called the 4R mind shift. So we can think about for our gut, removing the bad, right? So we can start to find out, are there things that we maybe have some allergies to? We can do some food testing, allergy testing to figure that out. Are there some sensitivities or intolerances, right? So I know for me, I worked with a naturopath to do that and did some testing. There are functional medicine doctors. There are some medical doctors out there who are versed in it and can help support that. I just encourage you to ask a lot of questions and don't stop with them telling you no. Find a partner, right, in your healthcare. I think a lot of times we take a physician's opinion as gold, and maybe it's just perhaps that they haven't spent time in this area. And so we want to make sure if we're not getting the answers that we are looking for, that we keep digging in and finding those resources, those partnerships that are going to help us with that. Because it really is important to look at and getting to the root of it. So those allergens, those intolerances, sensitivities, it's really important so that you can perhaps know what you need to remove, right? I always like to share my story, how I found out I had an intolerance to fruit, which, I mean, I could eat fruit all day long and think that that's a health food, right? And it was really having a negative impact on my body. So did some healing from that, been able to bring some of that back into my life. But it was incredibly important for my healing journey to know that information. So as much as you can get that information, it is good. I do caution, there are lots of sensitivity tests that you can do on the market at home. There are some good ones out there. There are some that maybe aren't. And so if you can have a person who's going to help coach you through that, who's knowledgeable about the test, that's just going to be an addition to your partnership that you're going to want. So I do always like to recommend that. The second R would be to replace with good, right? So digestive enzymes are an incredible supplement to take. As our body ages, we actually drastically reduce the amount we naturally make. And so being able to have these digestive enzymes that help break down the food, help pull those nutrients out, help the body really assimilate what it's taking from those nutrients, and getting as much as we can from what we are taking in. doTERRA does have the Terrazyme. And so these are the digestive enzymes. Anybody who has some sensitivities to gluten, there's actually an anti-gluten enzyme in here, which is so incredible. I know for me, I have a gluten sensitivity. And so sometimes socially, you might want to be engaging in things where you may have food that, has gluten in it. And so these have been very helpful for that. But lots of enzymes in here to really help break down all of the food groups so that we can pull those nutrients from them. For me, I notice a big difference. I tend to take them, you can take them with every meal. I tend to take them with my bigger meal of the day, and that's worked really well for me. But I definitely notice a difference in just how I feel after eating. I don't feel like I've overeaten or have any of those kind of digestive upset type of things that might happen when I take that. So I can tell the food is really being broken down. And then, you know, making sure we are looking into good supplementation. Even when we're eating well, the soil that our food is grown in is actually just so depleted of nutrients. So having good supplementation is incredibly important for our body to get all those nutrients, those minerals that we need. I love the doTERRA Lifelong Vitality vitamins. Before I started my partnership with doTERRA, I tried vitamins. I'm not sure I ever really saw them do much. And so when my doTERRA gals were like, no, you got to try this. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, they're really sure. They really do work. I see so much more with just overall health, energy, talking about the joint pain and all of that. You know, I was having a lot of thyroid symptoms, those kind of things. All of these things over time have really decreased drastically, if not disappeared, some of them. So the Lifelong Vitality vitamins are incredibly helpful for making sure that we are getting those nutrient deficiencies covered up. Anybody living north of Florida, we're all deficient in vitamin D. And so really want to make sure that we're tapping into quality supplementation for that, as well as brain health. It's a big piece of it. You know, I talked about how 90% of our serotonin is made in our gut. You know, those neurotransmitters, we want to make sure that those are top notch. doTERRA has amazing supplementation for tapping into our emotional health with our adaptive line. And so really taking a peek at some of those can be very helpful when you're targeting in on some things going on. The third one is to re-inoculate. That is a giant word. What does that mean? It means reintroducing the good bacteria. So believe it or not, our body is actually made up of more bacteria and fungi and viruses than we are human. So we want to make sure that we are actually taking care of that microbiome. Two ways to do that: prebiotics. So prebiotics are important. They're kind of like the fertilizer for probiotics. So we want to have our prebiotics, and then we want to have our probiotics to really feed the good bacteria what they need to really support our small intestine. doTERRA's probiotic, I'm a huge fan. I've taken tons of different probiotics over probably the last 10 years. And I dug in a lot when I started with doTERRA to research these, 6 million strains that are in here. And the really cool thing about doTERRA's is that they are time release capsules. So the important part of that is that it can survive the harsh stomach environment and get to the small intestine where we need it. So that's incredibly important for it. And they also have prebiotics in them. So they've got that food for the probiotic right there with it. A new product that doTERRA has that has prebiotics in it is the fiber supplement as well. This is a powder supplement. It's set apart from the majority of fibers on the market due to the fact that it does have those prebiotics in there, which is a really good partnership for that fiber to make sure we are having that digestive regularity. So something to think about there. And then our fourth R is repair. So we talked about all the things that can impact our gut lining. We want to make sure that we can do some repair for those things. Like I mentioned, when I had my fruit intolerance, right? And then over time was able to build back. Well, that's because repair happened over time from doing these things. So glutamine is a really good vitamin to make sure that we're getting for that. Zinc is a really good one. Quercetin. And then those digestive enzymes, they're going to really help us be able to repair the gut as well. So we want to make sure that we are kind of tapping into what is it that our gut needs to repair. There are some oils that are also very supportive for the digestive system. doTERRA has a blend called Digest Zen. It is a powerhouse blend for supporting better digestion, really soothing the digestive tract. They also have a blend called Tamer. It's actually my favorite of the two, just because Digest Zen has fennel in there, and it's a little bit of that licorice taste and smell. And so either you love that or you don't, and I'm on the don't side of that. And so I prefer the Tamer. Tamer is more on the spearmint side, Japanese peppermint in there, super incredibly soothing. It's actually from the kids line, but I love this one. It supports so well. Just put it right around the belly button, over the abdomen, maybe even putting a little bit in the hand, getting that message to the brain. We've got that brain gut connection, is a really great way to use that oil. Ginger is also incredibly supportive for the digestive system. It really aids in easing indigestion, nausea. doTERRA has a couple different ways to use that. We've got the oil, so you can take that internally by putting it in like a honey tea, or you can put it in a vegetable glycerin capsule and take it that way. And then we also have ginger drops. I really love those. They're ginger and lemon together. Those have been super soothing for any sort of nausea. When I talk about nausea, I always want to plug in something that I kind of discovered by accident for myself, dealing with nausea related to hormone imbalances. We have a blend called Slim and Sassy, and it has been incredibly supportive for that nausea related to hormone imbalances. So I always like to share that because I know a lot of women might be dealing with that. And so I actually love the taste of it and having some in my water. And I just happened to do that and then realized that it relieved it from the peppermint and citrus in that one is really supporting the digestive system. And then we have fennel, which you guys, when we talked about trying to crowd out those sweets and moving away from that, fennel is a really great way to do that. If you don't like the taste of it, you can just put it in a capsule. Like I mentioned, those are just like empty vitamins would be, that you can put those in, and it really helps to curb our appetite for sweets while simultaneously supporting healthy digestion. So that's definitely one that can be helpful. Grapefruit is another one that really helps to support our metabolism. And so that's another one to help kind of curb that sweet tooth as we're trying to build our mindset around being able to crowd that out. So you guys, as you can see, our gut health is an area that it really takes active awareness and support for that well care, but so much can be impacted when we really focus in on the root of that. And so it's so incredibly empowering to know that if we do focus in there, that we're going to start to see health overall improve, just from, occasional pain things that we might deal with that are related. Our, hormones I mentioned, there's a big connection there as well. Heart health, brain health, emotional health, all these things that we're really going to be able to have an impact on by really tapping into this gut health at the root. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about these things, and it really is about implementing them into our daily routines, right? It's easy, in the world of dieting, the reason why diets don't work is because there's so much deprivation involved that you get off track, or you fall off the bandwagon or whatever it is you want to call it, and you just are restarting versus like getting to the root of it. And so I really encourage those baby steps. Don't ever compare your beginning journey with gut health to someone who's been doing it for years and they've had all the success. We're all individuals, and we really have to start where we are. So I definitely encourage that. I do have a health coaching group coming up. It actually starts next week. I do have some spaces still left in that group. It's a 4-class. We dig in a little bit deeper on the crowding out. How do we support kind of building in our mindset and routines and habit stacking around nutrition, and then other things in our life that are also nourishing us off the plate that are just as important as the food we're putting on, if not even more. So we'll tap into all of that. So if you have questions and you want to, get in touch with me so we can chat about that. If you want to take a peek at what the health coaching classes will offer you, just to dive in a little bit deeper on this subject. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you have questions, you can jump on to sbellwellness.com to get my contact information. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as SBell Wellness. So please reach out, make sure that you get in touch with me so I can help support whatever it is, wherever you are in your journey and want to get started. All right, we'll see you sometime soon.